Well, hello everyone. Robert Johnson here with another story. This one I've been wanting to tell for a long time, and today is finally the day. There are fathers who love their children through softness, through kind words and gentle hands. And then there were fathers like mine, men who thought love had to have weight to it, had to leave a mark. I spent years hating him for every belt, every bruise. Every night I cried into my pillow wondering what I had done wrong. But somewhere along the way, something shifted inside me. And if you've ever had a complicated relationship with someone you were supposed to trust completely, stay with me, because this story is for you. I remember the night I almost ran away from home. I was 10 years old, the summer of 1966, and the air in our small house in rural Tennessee smelled like cigarette smoke and old wood, and the particular kind of tension that lives in walls when two people inside them are always on the edge of something. I had my shoes on. I had a jacket. I had gotten as far as the back porch, my hand on the screen door, the August heat still thick even after dark. And then I heard my father's voice from inside, not yelling, not angry, just talking to himself the way he sometimes did when he thought no one was listening. He was saying my name, not calling for me, just saying it, quietly, like it meant something to him, like it was something he kept in a pocket somewhere close to his chest. I stood there for a long time before I went back inside. My father, Harold Johnson, was born in 1929 in a county that had very little to offer a man who wasn't willing to break himself for it. He grew up during the Depression, watched his own father drink himself into the ground by the time Harold was 12, and took on farm work before he was old enough to shave. By the time he came back from Korea in 1953, there was a hardness in his eyes that my mother told me had not been there before. He never talked about the war. Not once. What he did instead was work and drink a little, and sometimes when the drinking went too far and something inside him cracked open that he did not know how to close, he used his hands on whoever was nearby. And most of the time, that was me. I want to be careful here, because I am not telling this story to make him into a monster. The truth is more complicated than that, and the complicated truth is the only one worth telling. He hit me, with his belt, with his open hand, with whatever was close when the rage took over. And it was wrong. I knew it was wrong even then, even as a child who did not have the language for it. There were nights I lay in bed cataloging the places that hurt and making quiet promises to myself that I would be nothing like him. I meant those promises. I held on to them like they were a rope over dark water. But here is what else is true. Harold Johnson woke up before sunrise every single day of his life that I can remember. He worked a full shift at the lumber mill, and then came home and fixed fences and fed animals and repaired whatever in that house needed repairing. He never missed a bill. He never let us go hungry. When I was 12 and I wanted to quit school because the other boys were making fun of my secondhand clothes, my father sat across from me at the kitchen table and told me that no son of his was going to be a quitter because life got uncomfortable. He said the world was not interested in comfortable men. He said I was going to finish school and I was going to do it well, and if I needed a reason, I could look at his hands and understand everything I needed to know about what happened to men who did not have an education. I looked at his hands. I understood. Before I go further, I have to ask you something. Have you ever been shaped by someone whose methods were wrong, but whose intentions you only understood much later? Have you ever hated someone for hurting you, and then, years down the road, found yourself carrying a piece of them that actually made you stronger? I know there are people watching this right now who have complicated feelings about a parent, a mentor, someone who pushed hard in ways that left marks. If that's you, leave a comment right now and write, "I carry both the wound and the lesson." Just that. Because someone reading your words today might need to know they are not alone in holding two things at once. The years between 1964 and 1971 were not easy years in America for anyone, and they were not easy years in our house. I watched the news with my father sometimes, the two of us sitting in front of a black and white television while Vietnam swallowed young men and cities burned and everything that had seemed permanent began to shift. My father had opinions, loud ones. We did not always agree, and as I got older I stopped staying quiet about it, and some of those conversations ended badly. But there was one night, I think it was 1968, when we were watching the news and something came on about a soldier who had been killed, a boy from a town not far from ours, and my father turned the television off and sat in the dark for a long time without saying anything. When he finally spoke, he said that he was glad I was too young to go. He said it once, quietly, And then he got up and went to bed. That was the closest he ever came to telling me he loved me in words. If you are laughing at how small that sounds, I understand. But I kept that moment for the rest of my life like something precious. If you are finding this story worth your time, please give it a like and subscribe to the channel. Because what this experience taught me about the difference between love and method, between intention and damage, is something I want to share with you all the way to the end. The last real conversation I had with my father before I left for college in 1974 was in the driveway of that same house in Tennessee. I was 18. He handed me $20 and told me not to waste it. Then he told me something I had never heard him say to anyone. He said that he knew he had not been easy. He said it the way a man says something he has rehearsed alone many times. The words careful and slow, like he was afraid of dropping them. He did not apologize exactly. Harold Johnson was not built for apology, but he said he knew. And somehow, that knowing was enough to begin something in me that had been locked up for a long time. I went to college. I became a teacher, which would have made him shake his head and also made him quietly proud, I think. I married. I had children of my own, and I made different choices with my hands, choices that involved holding and steadying rather than striking. But I also gave my children what my father gave me underneath all that hardness, which was the absolute refusal to let them believe the world owed them anything. I taught them to work. I taught them to finish things. I taught them to look at discomfort as information rather than as an enemy. Those lessons came from Harold Johnson, and I will not pretend they did not. He died in 1989. I was 33 years old. I stood at his grave in that same county where he had been born and worked and struggled and held things inside him that he never learned to release. And I cried in a way I had not expected to cry. Not just for losing him, for all of it, for the complexity of it, for the $20 bill and the dark room and the careful words in the driveway, for the man he might have been if the world had been gentler to him first. I do not believe children should be hit. I want to say that plainly and clearly. What my father did was wrong, and I chose differently. But I also believe that people are more than their worst moments, and that love can exist in broken containers, and that it is possible to be both wounded by someone and grateful to them without those two things canceling each other out. That is what my father taught me in the end. Not with his belt, with his life. If you made it this far, I already know something about you. You are the kind of person who understands that human beings are complicated, that the people who shaped us did not always shape us gently, and that we carry both the damage and the gift. These stories exist to remind us of that. To remind us that life has always been full of people trying their imperfect best, and that sometimes the most honest thing we can do is hold the whole truth without throwing any of it away. If you want to keep hearing stories like this one, subscribe to the channel. It is free, it is simple, and every new video is a new story waiting to be told with you on the other side. Hit that subscribe button and turn on the bell so you do not miss a single one. See you in the next one.